Today's video is sponsored by toilet paper. Smells like paper, not poop. Yet. Hello guys, this is Svetlana from Cosplay, and today I wanted to show you that even super elaborate props like Aloy spear here can be also made out of super cheap materials like EVA foam. I saw plenty of people making the same weapon, but they used a 3D printer. And while their work looked absolutely amazing, not everyone has a 3D printer, right? And well, you know me, I love working with EVA foam, and I also really enjoy making cool and accessible tutorials for you and which are easy to follow. So I wanted to see if I'm able to make like the same prop, but with 3D printing quality and out of EVA foam. So challenge accepted. In addition, Aloy spear was just the perfect example for my brand new prop making book for working with EVA foam, because I have like so many people saying, but Kamui, I have no money, but Kamui, I have no talent, but Kamui, I have no idea how to make swords and shields and all kind of things. So I made a new book just for you, full of helpful tutorials on how to make textures, how to separate weapons, and like how to make like a linked sword and shield and all the cool things you need to know on how to get started. So buy my books! And this is my finished spear. Like in total, it took me I think like 20 hours to build the whole thing, and Benny spent like 5 hours like for priming and painting, and he was far too slow. And yeah, and all the details and everything. And yeah, in total we spent like 60 euros on material costs, and yeah, it was super fun. I'm super happy about that. And yeah, if you want to know how I made it, keep watching. Let's go. First, Benny drew me a blueprint based on the Cosplay reference kit from Guerrilla Games. It was quite complicated, so I used also screenshots and video footage from the game as well. Once I printed it out, I taped all parts together and cut them out. For the wooden base of the spear, I decided to use a 3 cm PVC rod. In addition, I wanted to separate the spear into 2 parts, so I cut the rod into 2 halves. Next, I heated up the plastic and bent it into the shape of the spear. To connect both parts again, I placed a thinner pipe in the middle, drilled holes through both layers, and glued in a few magnets here and there. I actually explained this in a lot more detail in my new foam prop book. Following that, I wrapped everything in 2 mm high density EVA foam. I used quite a lot of contact cement here. The ends were covered with foam as well. This allowed me to jumble in a nice wooden texture. Well, and here began all the fun. Let's add some details on top. To create all additional parts, I simply kept on cutting my pattern into smaller pieces. Those were then traced to EVA foam, and I only had to smooth out the edges next. Contact cement worked like a charm to attach everything. This part was a little bit more complicated, and I actually had no idea how to build it. So I just kept on tracing and cutting and stacking layer after layer. This was supposed to be the spear tip. I connected a few 10 mm pieces, carved the whole part into shape, and sanded it down afterwards. Keep in mind that I always wore my respirator and sanded next to my vacuum cleaner hose. Some contact cement here and there, and this part was ready to get glued on. Now to the lower part of the spear tip. I surely had to guess some parts here and there, but overall the blueprint was an amazing help. All parts were pretty straightforward. However, having a good glue and a high quality material is also quite essential here. To create the carvings around the grip, I drew the pattern on first and then burned it in with my soldering iron. I had to keep my windows open here and wore a respirator as well. For the sphere thing at the end, I cut out a few leaf-shaped foam pieces and glued them together to get a ball. I cut in some holes and added some details. Now to the robot dinosaur override device at the back. I made a few round cutouts with my circle cutter and placed it into a square. Then I made a foam box with more rectangles, used my patterns to mark a few areas and did some sanding work. Next, I added a few more detail layers all around and closed the back and the front. Following this, I only had to slide the ball and the box onto the end of my spear. Okay, this top rail was a little bit more complicated. The main difficulty here was seriously to figure out how it's actually supposed to look. Plus, it was a gigantic puzzle, as you can see. I dremeled some parts into shape, glued everything together, and just hoped it kind of looks right. Kind of. Next, more glue, and it could finally be attached to the spear as well. Next up was the grip. It was supposed to be kind of a basket weaving. So how should I accomplish this look? I just tried my best by cutting a bunch of 2mm foam strips and sanding in some texture. Then I made a rough pattern based on my blueprint and used this as a reference for my upcoming weaving. I never did this before and actually had no idea if it would work. But I kind of liked the look that resulted from the weaving. Each section was then secured with glue. As you can guess, this took quite some time. Following that, I traced the pattern, cut out the right shape and finished the edges with more foam. Next, I just had to glue it on. Yes, it looked good enough. For the details, I had to punch out a good amount of circles. These then got holes and were stacked together. Now I only had to make some space and carefully glued each foam piece on. One at the bottom and one at the top. These round thingies at the side were basically just a few foam circles glued together and sanded into shape. Some more details here, some rough attachments there, and they could be glued on as well. You might notice now why I chose to separate my spear exactly at this spot. These round thingies would be just perfect to hide the seam. Afterwards, I only had to add a few more details. Even here, my blueprint was still quite useful. Also, I have a pretty good collection of different Dremel tips. Just awesome for all kind of holes, lines and screws. Okay, one thing I actually messed up. I missed to check the reference at the back, and it's actually round, not square. Now this is better. Well, and finally my foam build was done! As you can see, there are two main parts which can be easily connected together. This made the crafting part so much more comfortable. Yes, I'm quite proud here. And last but not least, some heat sealing with my heat gun. Now onto the priming. To fix some ugly gaps and spots, Benny first covered a few areas with quick seal. He spread some of it to his finger, carefully applied it onto the foam and evened it out with water. Next, I sprayed on 3 thick layers of Gummidip, which is basically just the German version of PlastiDip. Again, having 2 smaller pieces instead of just one super long spear was really helpful. So far so good. Now Benny mainly used his airbrush to paint everything. First he applied some brown to the wooden rod and some lighter brown to the weaving. Then he applied some masking tape and added ivory to the technical parts. I have actually no idea why he chose this color instead of clean white, so after painting all the details on by hand, he had to fix it again later and repeat all his previous work steps. For the mechanical looking canister on the end, he used a mesh that he laser cut. But you should be able to find something similar in your local hardware store. Next, he applied a chipped paint effect by adding some silver to the edges. And with this, his paint job was nearly done. He only had to seal the colors with satin spray varnish and add some weathering with oil paints to make the spear look more used. This actually adds a lot for a more believable and convincing paint job. One final layer of clear coat. Afterwards, I added some last details by wrapping fabric around the spear, adding some strings, colorful wires and a little bit of faux leather here and there. Benny actually used his airbrush to paint the feathers as well. I attached them under the side pads and at the end of the spear. Well, and with this, Aloy's spear was complete. It was some good teamwork between Benny and me, and we are both super proud of how it turned out. Zelda is apparently not very impressed, but I'm super happy. I think it looks quite close to the reference and has a good amount of details despite being made almost entirely with simple foam. I'm super happy how the spear turned out. I mean, sure, it's not perfect, it has its flaws, and a 3D print would be probably a little bit cleaner, but still I'm really proud and I'm happy. And well, if you also want to make the same spear yourself, by the way, you can actually also download the blueprint directly from our website on kamicosplay.com. And yeah, as always, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. And also, I would love to hear your opinion. What's your favorite material? Is it EVA foam? Is it wobbler? Do you prefer 3D printing or like working with sculpting, mold making or whatever? Just let me know in the comments. And as always, I hope you liked the video. Hit the notification bell, like and subscribe, and consider to support us on Patreon or yeah, the YouTube membership. So yeah, see you at the next video then. So see you soon. Bye bye.